You're listening to 5 Minute Feng Shui, podcast episode 200. Feng Shui, your handwriting. Welcome to the 5 Minute Feng Shui podcast, where each week I talk about how to move energy and make money. You'll learn how to create a prosperous home and an abundant life using classical Chinese Feng Shui. I'm your host, Katie Weber, publisher of the Red Lotus Letter, Feng Shui Easing for Wealth. Each week, I'll cover Feng Shui topics that can help you improve your life, share inspiring stories, and always end with 3 easy-to-implement Feng Shui tips that you can put to work right away, and usually in about 5 minutes. Now let's get started on the 5 minutes that could change your life. Hello, my Feng Shui friend. I hope you are having a terrific day today. We are, on episode 200. This is momentous. Yay! I should ring a bell. Hope that 200 episodes. I don't know how long you've been with me, but I hope you have enjoyed the meanderings of Feng Shui in this podcast, wherever it takes us. And today, it's going to take us to your hand and your handwriting in particular, because you can Feng Shui your handwriting. I know you probably hadn't thought about that before, but that's what today's episode is about, and what the difference is when you make some subtle changes to handwriting, and how important it is in terms of what your handwriting says. And I'm going to leave you with some tips too about your handwriting, and some esoteric thoughts and ideas that you can incorporate that I think are pretty darn cool. So let's talk about your Feng Shui handwriting and your signature. Now, when we think about your Feng Shui and how it shows externally, like in your office or your home, you can kind of see the level of success somebody enjoys. When you walk into an executive's office and they've got the big desk in the corner office, well, you know that something's working well for them. And you can see that too in someone's home, and the type of car they drive, the clothes they wear, that kind of thing. But can you take those same traits and apply it to something more personal, like your handwriting? So for instance, can you see success in someone's handwriting? I think that's fascinating to just even contemplate. But just like there's flow and movement that translate into qualities in your life, there's flow of handwriting that can indicate and influence your personal qualities and your success. And this is, to me, a topic that is just fascinating. I think that whatever you touch, you can influence. And part of Feng Shui is the things that you adjust, and the things that you have in your home and in your office and that you surround yourself with, and that they exert an influence. Well, what could be having, or what could have more of an influence and be more influential than your handwriting and the way it looks? I find that fascinating. Now, the study of handwriting is called graphology. Now, it's also a very serious sort of practice, and it's interesting because it's often treated very practically, and is used to look at the handwriting samples of serial killers, of criminals, and the CIA and the FBI and police departments all use handwriting analysis to understand the minds of the people that they're investigating. So I find that very, very interesting that it is actually used as an indicator to understand someone's personality. So I think if you can understand your personality by the way you write, why wouldn't it influence your success? Just like a serial killer may have a style of handwriting that could be indicative of, a deranged mind, I think you can have people that have signatures that say success. I mean, just look at Oprah Winfrey. Let me tell you, that big O in Oprah is huge. And that O is like a big coin. It's like a big silver or gold dollar that is big. And this lady has got the billions to back it up. So let's talk about graphology and how it relates to Feng Shui. And I find this interesting because your mind and thinking, interestingly, are related to the hand in Feng Shui, which is just fascinating. So, by extension, thinking about that, the style of writing that someone has could provide insight into that person's personality and directly influence their lives. Now, in my own Feng Shui training, my teachers encourage students to look at your signatures to make sure they look successful, that they look prosperous, that they emphasize writing that had bold strokes that were tilted up and to the right, because that means forward movement. I think about when Tim and I first got married, his writing has changed so much from when we first got married because his writing was very left tilting and like it was kind of falling backwards. And this is one of the things that we had talked about years ago, and especially in my master consultant courses, was about how Enron, that the energy company that was based in Houston that went bankrupt and took so many people down with them, that who had invested in them, they had a logo with an E that was tilted backwards. And that means like falling backwards. So if your writing is tilted backwards, it could be like, you're falling backwards, that you don't feel like you have support. And I find that very interesting how once we got married, his writing changed and now it's very tilted to the right and moving forward. Very interesting, just personally, how I've seen somebody's handwriting change as the years go by. But let's talk about what else makes a signature auspicious and writing that can show signs of problems. Now, according to Kathy McKnight, she is the handwriting shaman. She said changing your signature has the ability to change your life. She said that handwriting can reveal things about you from your sex drive, your health and psychology, and even exposing maybe some of your problem areas and psychological issues, and also how expressive you are. Well, we all know that when we see just the signatures on the Declaration of Independence, which most American school children have seen just as pictures in history books. You can see how big and flourishing those signatures are. And I even wondered, was that a good omen for a big and flourishing country at the time? I think that's fascinating to even consider that. So when it comes to how you're perceived in the world, McKnight says that your signature is really where it's at. And so she talked to me about some of these. I interviewed her, this is some time ago. And today when I was trying to think of something to talk to you about, I thought, this is something that you can directly impact your signature. And I haven't talked about it on the podcast before. So I thought if there was something I could tell you on episode 200 that would make a change in your life, make a difference in your life, just like right now, what could that be? And I saw, oh gosh, handwriting. I hadn't thought about that in forever. So let's talk about that. So she says that if the slant moves to the left, the person might be withdrawn or reclusive, maybe difficult to get to know. But if it's to the right, that person is more expressive and sentimental. So she said that you can even improve your memory by being careful to dot I's precisely over the letter. It's interesting because my name is Katie, Katie, and sometimes the dot over my I would go a little off. And so now I really make a point to pay close attention and dot my I's right over the I. Now, she says when it comes to looking for love, Graphology can help also. So she says to note where someone crosses their T's to show how healthy their self-esteem is, because that can affect your relationship. So, for instance, the lower that the crossbar is on the T, the lower their self-esteem. So somebody that crosses a T way down on the T might not be as good as somebody who's crossing their T in the middle or a little bit higher on the T, and it shows a better self-esteem. Now, she says that if you're looking for someone whose handwriting tilts right as opposed to left, which might indicate emotionally sort of withdrawn person. So she said, look for people that have the right tilting writing, because it's going to show more of a grounded person. Now, someone that's really leaning to the left. Now, Tim's was just kind of tilted to the left, but it wasn't like leaning. So, if a real severe lean can sometimes indicate emotional injury as a child. I thought that was really interesting, just from a personal perspective, and how your handwriting can be revealing. Now, when she said when it comes to money, she always recommends that people look for money bag strokes in your handwriting. And so, for instance, if you have a G, a J or a Y letter, you want those to have big loops at the bottom, because when they're round and full, they indicate an interest in money. But if they're compressed and they have a real slender or a square bottom loop, or they look like they've been retraced, it could show trust issues around money, which could help someone not only have financial problems, but may actually repel money. So those sort of angled J's or angled Y's or G's, wherever those loops are, that's actually it could indicate issues around money and a sharpness around money. And that's something that we always want to have, is maybe somebody with a big loop at the bottom. Think about Oprah and that big O that she has in Oprah, and how big and open and expressive it is. And if you ever listen to Oprah, well, you know she is a big and expressive lady, and her signature really expresses who she is. I find that very fascinating to think about it. So what tips can you have to make your signature more successful? So one of the first things that you would want to do is try to make your signature legible, so that it's not just a series of squiggles. Now, I know that some people, for instance, different countries and different languages and different cultures have different signatures. I know some people try to do a signature that is a particular, like a style versus their name. So you would not be able to read William. It just is this kind of style of writing. It has a graphical kind of aspect to it. To me, it seems like you're missing out on something if you don't have a signature that shows any portion of your name. Now, McKnight suggested that you should make your first letter slightly larger than the others in your first and last name. So, for instance, my name is Catherine Weber, so I would make the K and the W a little bit larger. So if your name is Tiffany Smith, then you're going to make a T and an S much larger, and you're going to want to make it show a little bit larger and tilted to the right. Now, she says that shows a healthy ego, and we need that. Everybody needs a little bit of ego, and we need it to be healthy too. But when it comes to sometimes when you have signatures, people will make an underline, and she says make sure that it's just a single underline and it starts from left to right. Another thing that she suggests is that all writing has a forward movement, especially your signature. So that means you want your letters to have movement that indicates going to the right. So that means that you're going to be moving forward versus that left tilt, which could be a problem moving forward in life. Now, in Feng Shui, Lillian too often suggested that you could have more power in your signature if you were able to write your name following the sigil of Saturn. Now, this is a really ancient type of symbol, and this is actually the sigil of Saturn is an old and ancient symbol, but it is also the symbol that shows the flight and movement of each of the flying stars and the pattern in which they move. So every year we know that all of the stars move from one direction to another, and this is the pattern. They follow the pattern of the sigil of Saturn. Now, the sigil of Saturn kind of looks like a W with a line through it, or like an M and a W with a line through it. And I've tried to do that, and if you can do that and sign your signature with following that, well, I say my hat's off to you. I'm throwing it out there. If you can do it, then by all means, go ahead, give it a shot. It's very difficult to do. I've tried, and if I had to sign a check or go to a house closing or any kind of legal thing where you had to make a signature, it would be extraordinarily painful, because when you have to make so many of them. The other thing I want to always remind you about is the importance of always starting your name on an upward movement, not down. So for instance, you always want to, let's say I'll take Tiffany, that name Tiffany, for instance. Some people might make the T downward with a single slash down and then do the cross across. I would do the bar across first and then the slash down. If you did it like in a standard T bar type of letter. Now, if you did a cursive style letter, again, I would start on an upward stroke always. We always want to start your name whether it's the first name and the last name, on an upward stroke. And again, tilting a little bit forward. And remember, you're really special if you've got a G or a J or a Y in your name. Make those loops on those letters really big and fat, because those are your money bags. All right, well, I hope that this has been an interesting 5-minute feng shui. It's actually been about 15 minutes today, so a little bit shorter than normal. But remember, if you are feeling like you are stuck somewhere in life, you can actually make a change in your handwriting to make a change in your life. So I just wanted to share a real quick aside with you. So I talked to you at the beginning about how Tim had, when we first married, his writing tilted to the left. What was interesting was I remember talking to him about his writing and his handwriting, and talking to this woman about graphology. And this was, oh gosh, this was years ago, 25 years ago or so. And I said, have you ever thought about just redoing your signature entirely? And he did. He did a really big change on his signature with this big first letter, T in Timothy, and he really did this really kind of swirly S on his last name that looks actually like a dollar sign. What's interesting, and to me, the most fascinating thing was what happened was he ended up going into sales and getting out of science and going into sales. And that was right around the same time that he completely changed his signature. And what a difference it made for him in his career, in his earnings, in every way in his life. Changing his signature was such a huge difference for him. So if you think that a change in signature won't make a difference, I'm here to tell you, I've seen it happen. All right, I'm going to leave you with 3 tips for today. First tip is always make sure that your writing is legible. Tip number 2, make sure that both letters are a little of your first and last name are a little bit larger than the rest of your name. Tip number 3, make sure that they always go on an upward stroke and tilted to the right a little bit. And you can make that little underline underneath your name and one strike with one underline going forward. And that is a great way to move your life forward. And if you have a tendency to tilt left a little, work on tilting your handwriting to the right so that you can move forward a little bit more forward, because that may indicate some areas of stuckness in your life. Now, I want to offer you an opportunity to ask me anything on the 5-Minute Feng Shui podcast, because, I'm curious to know what you'd like to know. And if you have any questions for me, I'd love to hear what they are, and I'd like to answer them here on a future podcast. So if you want to ask me a question that I address here on the podcast, send me an email to hello, HELLO, at redlotusletter.com. In the subject, put ask me anything. And so if you can just send that question, again, hello at redlotusletter.com, put ask me anything in the subject line, and I will answer your question in an upcoming episode, if it's appropriate, of course. Anyhow, you have a fantastic day. We only have another week left, and then it's Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and I am cooking the bird this year, and I am excited about having a really nice, slow, and easy holiday. I do want to let you know, if you've been anxious to hear about the Success Pack, it isn't going to be coming out on Black Friday. So if you're waiting for Black Friday, I'm going to say just go ahead and go on about your Black Friday and your Thanksgiving and your week, wherever maybe you don't celebrate Thanksgiving because you're in Australia or what have you. But if you're looking for it to come out next week, I do want to let you know it will probably be the week after, because I am taking the holiday off, Thanksgiving. I want to be able to just have a nice, slow, and relaxing Thanksgiving, and give you one too, so you don't have to be worrying about, is the Success Pack coming out? I need to check my emails and that kind of thing. I just want to check my turkey. And so I know you can understand that. Just a little bit more, a little bit more downtime with my family, and just have a really slow and relaxed turkey day. In the meantime, have a great week, and I may not be on next week because it is Thanksgiving, but look for me the week after. In the meantime, have a great week, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of 5-Minute Feng Shui. Hey, thanks for listening today. I've got great news for you. In 2023, we have the year of the rabbit. Better still, we have a beautiful star coming into the middle of our homes that is going to brighten, lighten, and fill everything with a vase full of roses. Yes, it is a wonderful energy that I know you're going to love, and I can't wait to tell you more about it in my upcoming 2023 Feng Shui Forecast and Success Pack for the year of the rabbit. Stay tuned right here on 5 Minute Feng Shui for more details coming soon.